Hi, haters. I am very sick, but I am here nonetheless to talk with you about a topic that has been on my mind for some time now. That is parasocial relationships. In recent years, it seems like this term has been negatively applied to discourse surrounding fandoms and online communities. However, parasocial relationships have existed for a very long time. The word parasocial, coined by American sociologists Richard Wall and Donald Horton in 1956, derives from the Greek para, meaning beside or on one side, and social, relating to friendly companionship or relations. Parasocial relationships are defined as one-sided social and emotional connections developed with fictional or celebrity figures. This can be as simple as cheering for your favorite football team, or as intense as having an entire room in your house dedicated to collecting memorabilia from your favorite fandom. Studies have found that around 51% of Americans have engaged in this behavior. Parasocial relationships have been prevalent for centuries among political and religious leaders. So how did we get to the point where the term carries such a heavy negative connotation? An excerpt from a Time magazine article in 2023 titled "In Defense of Parasocial Relationships" says, "Parasocial relationships can help adolescents in particular form an identity and develop autonomy, according to one 2017 study. By imagining relationships and associating emotions with people at a distance, we have a safe forum to experiment with different ways of being." Additional research has found that parasocial relationships can help people with low self-esteem feel more confident and become closer to their ideal self. Those with avoidant attachment styles, who are generally wary of closeness, often get attached to TV characters with desirable characteristics that they then try to embody, which can be an effective coping strategy. We find people, characters, stories, whatever it is, to emulate and to take attributes from and to sort of use as inspiration. It's a lifelong process, not something that just happens in adolescence. As a streamer and content creator, a huge part of my job is having these parasocial relationships with people in my community and viewers on my stream. I mean, my favorite part of the job is creating that space for support and inclusion. Throughout my life, I've felt really awkward and introverted, so I totally understand how difficult it can be to form real connections to people in real life. It's just human nature to want to feel like you're a part of a community. And it's not just about being in a group that sees you, it's about being somewhere where you actually belong. And I've been on the other side of parasocial relationships as well. After my first serious breakup, I was so depressed that I just kept YouTube videos going almost 24/7 just to make me feel less alone. And the channel that I kept going back to just so happened to be Funhouse. Yes, the Rooster Teeth branch, RIP. And I love that group so much for getting me through such a tough time in my life. But they didn't know that I existed. And for some reason, I felt so compelled to show my devotion by flying to Austin and attending RTX multiple summers in a row just for the chance to meet them. And a lot of people do this kind of thing, whether you're going to TwitchCon, VidCon, Comic-Con, concerts, football games, all kinds of different fans will spend crazy amounts of money to travel to different places to see, watch, listen, and enjoy the content of their favorite celebrities. I mean, think about how many times you have engaged in activities like this, and maybe even keep your favorite celebrity like in the front of your mind and reflect a little bit on how you engage with them across different platforms. Having parasocial relationships is very normal, and psychologists state that the positive benefits to a person's self-identity is backed by science. But at what point does this phenomenon become unhealthy? In 2002, psychologist Lynn McCutcheon co-developed the Celebrity Attitude Scale to measure the extent to which someone is enamored with their favorite star. This suggests that there are 3 levels of celebrity worship. The first, entertainment social, describes the vast majority of people. These are fans who appreciate their favorite celebrity's skills and like sharing that interest with others. I think a prime example of this is the random guy that they got on for the show Jury Duty, who didn't even really know know who James Marsden was.
You remember the movie Sonic? I heard that was not a good movie. Is it funny?
The next level, intense personal, occurs when people start to internalize the values of their favorite celebrity and genuinely consider them their soulmate. McCutcheon notes, fortunately, this is a fairly small minority of people. I honestly think that if you run any kind of fan page or fan account for a celebrity, you would fall in this category. The final level, borderline pathological, refers to people who would do anything for their favorite celebrity, including illegal activities. This behavior reminds me a lot of fandoms that attack rivals of their favorite celebrity. And a recent example of this is when Sabrina Carpenter fans started harassing and stalking Barry Keoghan and his family after they publicly broke up. They do note, though, that only 3 to 5% of people that have parasocial relationships meet the criteria for this category of celebrity worship, which is associated with poor mental health. Studies have shown that people that fall in the last two categories, the intense personal and borderline pathological, have certain traits in common, including impulsivity, trouble with intimate relationships, and high levels of anxiety and neurosis. Despite being officially defined in the early 2000s, this type of obsession has existed for a long time. Just look at older fandoms like the Beatles or teenagers that fawned over Elvis. These people were dangerously parasocial to the point of stalking, groping, and were convinced that they were in love with their favorite celebrity, despite only knowing the music that they sing.
Have you tried to sneak into the hotel?
Yes, we were in the hotel.
How far in did you get?
12th floor.
To better understand the psyche of celebrity worship, let's look at a study from 2014. The empirical data found that at one end of the spectrum, celebrity worship is akin to being a passionate fan. This study states that the word fan derives from the Latin word fanaticus, meaning insanely but divinely inspired, which checks out entirely. At the other end of the spectrum, celebrity worship appears to touch the borders of psychopathology, confirming the older studies on how celebrity worship is an abnormal type of parasocial relationship that is driven by absorption and addictive elements. In recent years, scores on the celebrity attitude scale have began increasing slightly overall. There could be a variety of reasons here, but McCutcheon speculates that it's fueled to an extent by the greater accessibility of celebrities to their fans. I remember getting MySpace back in like 2006 when I was obsessed with High School Musical, and I was so excited to be able to find and send friend requests to Ashley Tisdale and Zac Efron. Like, they went straight to my top friends, and I felt so giddy when I could come home from school and see their little online now feature below their picture, and I just felt so connected to them. But today we get so much more than just knowing that these celebrities are online. We can see their stories, their TikToks, we can comment on their posts, tag them in our own content, we can direct message them, watch live streams that they're a part of, and sometimes they even will directly respond to us. There are so many different ways now that we can feel connected to our favorite celebrities. We can watch roundtable discussions with different actors talking about their different perspectives on their recent films. Vogue has spotlight artists answer 73 questions while showcasing their houses to remind the consumer that these very popular and rich people are simply just people. We get to see how down to earth and chaotic the most put together people become when they eat the hottest of hot wings. I mean, regular day-to-day people can now even participate in celebrity look-alike contests and be glorified for simply looking like any beloved actor. But while we get to ingest all of this content around our favorite celebrities, a lot of the times we forget that they know nothing about us.
If you saw a random woman on the street, would you yell at her from the car window? Would you harass her in public? Would you go up to a random lady and say, "Can I get a photo with you?"
After being thrust into fame in the past year, Chappell Roan, the queen that she is, has challenged the norm of parasocial interactions. She argues that even though this type of fan interaction might typically come with the job, it doesn't excuse anyone from crossing her boundaries. According to an interview with Rolling Stones, she dealt with a stalker last year that showed up at her parents' house and followed her to her hotel room in New York. She also mentioned being kissed without her consent, her father's personal phone number leaking, and being harassed by a man at the airport for an autograph. Chappell urges her fans to see her as a random bitch because most people wouldn't harass somebody that they don't know at all. And it makes sense that she's wary of her own fans who, to reiterate, are people that she doesn't know at all. It's safer for celebrities to assume that their fans are on the more serious side of the celebrity attitude scale since they don't know them or their intentions. There have been several artists that had fans so obsessed with them that they unfortunately led to their deaths, including Selena, John Lennon, Andy Warhol, and Rebecca Schaeffer. In Japan, there's been multiple reports of famous idols being relentlessly stalked and attacked. In 2019, a Japanese man accused of stalking and sexually assaulting a young pop star told the police that he located her through the reflection in her eyes of a picture she posted online. And with access to practically live updates of our favorite celebrities on their social media accounts, it's easier now than it ever has been before to see what they're up to and where they've been. And on one hand, this can strengthen fan bases by allowing them to feel a bit more connected and have this sort of stronger parasocial relationship with them. But on the other, it can give too much information to people that take things way too far. Larger streamers like Ludwig, Pokimane, Valkyrie, and others have openly talked about their creepy viewers. Valkyrie admits on her podcast that she moves so often because her address gets leaked all the time. Pokimane recently had to fire an editor for jerking it instead of working? Like, what the fuck? Ludwig made a great video addressing people in his own community who think they're friends with him and that it's impossible for him to be friends with millions of subscribers or thousands of live viewers. And of course, these are examples of larger streamers, but these rules apply to all creators you engage with on all platforms. And yes, it does apply to you, even if you don't think you're one of the bad ones. Whether they reply to you, converse with you, play games with you, they're not your friends. It might be harsh to hear it, but it's real, and it's one of, if not the only way, to keep you and your favorite creators safe. Having a safe haven in a community you love is valid, but stop being weird about it and stop feeling entitled to people's time, especially when it comes to women creators. There's a whole other side of this we could explore about creators with power taking advantage of their audiences, but this video isn't about that. And of course, as we saw in the studies before, not all fans are this obsessed. It's typically a minimal amount of people, which is why I was very surprised to see hundreds of thousands of likes on TikToks perpetuating delusional behavior around certain celebrity figures. I recently landed on Billie Eilish TikTok, where the fans do exactly this, claiming or more like bragging that Billie looks in their general direction. And as someone who's a casual listener of her music, I had no idea that people were making content like this. And I can understand being silly about this because it's something that will likely never happen, and it could be fun and even harmless to entertain fantasies of this sort. But this inches into unhealthy territory and enables people to internalize their obsessions into something that's acceptable among other fans. While not impossible, it is very unlikely that Billie Eilish would choose a random fan at a concert to have a long-term relationship with. Some celebrities do date fans, but it's not very common, and these relationships tend to fizzle out because of the lack of shared experience and empathy. With any parasocial relationship, it's important to identify the huge power imbalance that comes with it. The National Sexual Violence Resource Center defines power as the ability to influence the actions and choices of others. Relationships have a power imbalance when one person has the power to influence things like money, a place to live, a job, or a reputation. They give some really great examples of power imbalances, such as age differences and sexual experience, level of ability, position in society, and privilege. Whether a parasocial relationship evolves into a romantic one, it's important to understand that there is not an equitable balance between the two either way. It's difficult to have a healthy relationship with someone who already has a certain perception of the other, especially when they're idolized and their life is on display. I mean, it would be quite unsettling if you started dating someone who knew everything about you, but you knew nothing about them. In a relationship like this, there's not even a foundation of getting to know each other at the same rate. It can get messy really fast. And I was talking with my stream community while I was scripting this video, and it was really interesting to discuss that as a smaller creator, it's easier to form actual friendships with people in my community, albeit still rare. Usually when I make meaningful, or what I would call like real friendships with people online, it's usually with other streamers or creators, because even though the power imbalance with me and my community is a lot smaller than, say, Taylor Swift and a Swiftie, the power imbalance is still there. It's much easier to have a friendship with someone who matches your power dynamic. And no matter the situation, it is always up to the person that holds the power within any given relationship to act responsibly in their position. Anyway, I thought this would be a really interesting topic to dive into, considering my line of work, growing on YouTube, growing on Twitch. It's just such a fascinating thing to think about in this world of always being online and always feeling connected to people, even though we're like realistically not. It's just super weird to me, but I find it very fascinating, and I'm really interested to know what you all think about this. So please let me know about any of your own parasocial experiences, whether it's your dynamic between you and your viewers, or maybe how you've made lifelong friends from online communities being at the same level as other like viewers or consumers. It's just so interesting to me, and I've made so many amazing online friends that are also wonderful creators. But thank you so much for watching until now. Subscribe maybe, and I'll see you in the next one.